Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing what I'm going to refer to as the new building meta in Fortnite. Throughout the duration of Season X, Fortnite has implemented multiple different gameplay changes, which have made a significant impact on the way that players build. I don't really think you can point to one specific change as the one that totally altered the building meta, and that's why it may not be blatantly obvious that buildings even changed in the first place. But when you combine a bunch of the recent changes together, that's when you start to recognize that there are definite differences between how players build now and how players built before the season began. So without further ado, let's get right into talking about how the building meta in Fortnite has changed. Alright, so without a doubt the biggest change from the building meta in Fortnite now compared to the building meta in Fortnite maybe 2 to 3 months ago is that turtling is so much weaker and less viable of an option in close range fights. Sometime around maybe Season 7 or 8, so roughly 5 to 6 months ago, turtling had become such an insanely popular building strategy in Fortnite. Obviously, it had been around way before then, but around that time was when even average players started to realize the importance of turtling and playing low ground. What was once seen as somewhat of a newbie playstyle mainly meant for bad players that couldn't build, was suddenly looked at as a genius method of defensive building that countered players who just mindlessly built to high ground and forced them to fight you in a situation that they were much less comfortable with. But for whatever reason, Epic made it a priority to make turtling and defensive building in general much less effective now. The biggest change that accomplished this feat was the nerf to turbo building speed when replacing walls. You used to be able to turbo build walls in the same exact spot every 0.05 seconds, but that was recently changed to 0.15 seconds, and if you're bad with math, that's exactly 3 times slower now. In my opinion, the biggest nerf to turtling that this change presents is the fact that you can now be consistently shot through your builds no matter what ping you play on. That was one of the biggest strengths of turtling in the past. You could just hold down right trigger /R2, and because turbo build built so quickly, your walls would block every single bullet as long as you kept holding down the button. Now, what's interesting about this change is that since every weapon has different fire rates and different structure damage, the weapon being used will affect how many shots will actually get through turbo-built walls. And I actually found a good post online where someone did the math and calculated this for the most popular spray weapons in the game. The first weapon he calculated was the minigun, and he says there's no ping that can prevent being shot by a minigun through turbo build. This is incredibly broken as the minigun fires one shot every 0.083 seconds, and now on 0 ping it takes 0.15 seconds to place a wall. This means that every time a new wall is placed while turbo building, one shot will hit the opponent. But if their ping is greater than 18, they'll be hit with 2 shots per new wall placed. For the suppressed SMG, he says, the rate of fire of the SMG means that on any ping, the aggressor can hit 1 shot through your walls on either the 5th or 6th shot depending on which rarity of the SMG they have. For the tactical SMG, it's 1 bullet shall be shot through for every new build that's replaced. The uncommon version of the weapon will take 4 shots to destroy freshly built wood, as opposed to the 3 shots it'll take with the rare and epic versions. So you'll hit the player with every 5th shot of the uncommon TAC SMG, and 4th shot with the rare and epic TAC SMGs. And what I found most interesting about this post is that when someone's spraying your wall with an AR, your ping will basically determine whether they'll get shots through or not. The calculations are a bit confusing, but the summary is, if your ping is 32 or above, you'll get shot through turbo build by any AR. But for the other 3 weapons we covered, it doesn't matter what your ping is, there's literally nothing you can do to prevent being sprayed through your turbo build. Another major gameplay change that nerfed turtling is the new wall replace system. Breaking and replacing an enemy's wall used to be heavily reliant on ping, but now, due to the fact that a coin flip determines who gets the wall, it's much more RNG based now. I have heard that ping is still somewhat important because to trigger the coin flip for the wall replace, you still need to attempt to place your wall within 0.15 seconds, and on high ping that may actually be a bit difficult. However, for low to medium ping players, gone are the days of having absolutely no fear that your wall is going to be replaced while turtling as long as you're just holding down RT/R2. You need to be on alert 24/7 while boxed up, that at any time an enemy could take your wall, and that obviously makes defensive building much less effective. The final nerf to turtling is one that's been brewing for a while now, but recently has become more apparent than ever, and that is the prevalence of items which counter turtling. For a while, Fortnite's main strategy to counter turtling with items was to use explosives. We've seen things like dynamite, C4, clinger grenades, bottle rockets, and a few other things similar to those. But even though those types of items are super annoying to deal with, a lot of the time, as long as you spam build around you, you can negate pretty much all damage from these items, unless they just throw an insane amount of them at once. So what Fortnite's starting to do now is add items into the game which deal damage through structures. Obviously, stink bombs have been around forever, but within the last 2 months or so, we've gotten junk rifts, zappers, and airstrikes. All 3 of those items, and especially the first 2, aren't really able to be countered by building. You basically just need to get out of the item's range to be safe. So with turtling being much weaker now compared to a few months ago, I think it's a fairly obvious conclusion that aggressive building, especially to get high ground, is the dominant building playstyle right now. If you're able to outbuild someone and take high ground from them at the very beginning of the fight, they're forced to choose between either trying to retake that high ground or play defensive and turtle up. That definitely isn't anything new, but in the last 2 to 3 seasons or so, the majority of players, when confronted with that choice, would almost always choose to turtle up and play low ground. That's because although low ground box fighting does take some mechanical skill, it requires significantly less than a technique like advanced high ground retakes. And even though turtling up was easier than attempting to retake high ground, it was also just the way stronger option most of the time. But now, whenever I get high ground and I see a player immediately box up, I'm definitely not as scared as I once was. In the past, if there were 2 equal skill players fighting low ground with one player inside a box and the other player on the aggressive outside of it, I honestly think that both players would have roughly a 50% chance to win that fight. But now, in that same situation, I think the player outside of the box wins that fight somewhere around 70 to 75% of the time. And that's because there's just so many counters to low ground turtling now. You can choose to just spray through the wall with an SMG and hit maybe 3 to 5 shots per clip. You can break and replace one of the turtling player's walls fairly quickly most of the time, even if you're dealing with a 0 ping player. Or if you have an item like stink bombs, a junk rift, or zappers, you can just throw one and force the player outside of his 1x1 unless he wants to take a ton of damage. Now obviously, high ground has its fair share of weaknesses as well. Most notably being exposed to players that are pretty far away in the distance, and the constant fear of the bottom of your structure being broken and you taking a ton of fall damage. But I think that for the first time in a while, when you weigh the positives and negatives of playing high ground versus playing low ground, not only is high ground the better option, but it really isn't even close. I'm not saying to never play low ground because it's still a relatively effective technique, but now more than ever, your goal going into every single fight you take should be to establish high ground as early as possible. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think about high ground versus turtling in Fortnite right now, and which building strategy you personally prefer. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.